Welcome, welcome, everyone. You are in the right place if you are here to learn about remote work with Ivo Shepard. We are really happy to have him here. We're going to give it just a moment for the room to fill up. But as you're joining, if you want to let us know in the chat where you're joining from, we will welcome you to do that. We have a good crowd joining. My name is Jennifer Bongora, and I am Nexford University's Director of Career Innovation. If you are here today to join our webinar with Ivo Shepard from the Remote How Institute and the Remote First Institute, you are in the right place. So we're going to get started in just a moment. We have folks joining from Kenya, from Nigeria. I'm in Malawi. We have Malaysia, South Africa, I know. A really great group coming in. A quick housekeeping. We're going to have some great questions come in. Please put them in the Q&A of the Zoom room so we can cover those. We'll save some time at the end. This is going to be an abbreviated webinar, so it's just 30 minutes. So we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. We have folks joining from Iraq. That's awesome. And you will get a copy of this recording. So those are some of the questions that we get and any of the links that are referenced. So I will go ahead and get started because we have a critical mass in our attendee pool here. So again, my name is Jennifer Bongora, and I am Nexford University's Director of Career Innovation. Really delighted to have you here today and to be joined by Ivo Shepard. Quickly, his brief bio: he's a remote work advocate and co-founder of Remote How, the world's leading platform for remote professionals powered by and for the community of over 25,000 people from over 128 countries. So he has worked with some pretty incredible companies. I'm going to put his LinkedIn in the profile, so I hope that you all will follow him. I'm going to turn it over to you, Ivo, to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do, and then we'll get into our questions.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Jennifer. It's really great to be here. And I see that we have folks joining from all over the world, a lot of places in Africa. This is exciting. I hope that you won't regret this time investment. So my remote work story actually started in 2011 when I got my first job that was also remote. It was an internship. But then probably what's relevant is that in 2017, we started Remote How, which from the day one was helping companies make remote work through training and consulting. And last year in September, we also co-founded a not-for-profit called Remote First Institute, which gives access to top resources community for free if you would like to upskill yourself in the distributed game, connect with peers from all over the world. So that's probably what's relevant for you. I'm also a passionate remote worker myself. I lived in 15 different countries in the last 5 years. I love to be able to work from anywhere, and this is what I'm driving. I'm also personally a dog lover. My dog is in the room next to me, and I recently started to surf, which is a huge hobby that's right now on top of my list. So yeah, that's about me. And if you're interested, like Jennifer mentioned, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn so we can stay in touch later on. And I'm excited for today's chat.
That's great. Thank you. So it's great. I've shared in the chat a link to Remote First Institute, which what you had said previously is a platform where anyone can join for free to get more resources about in the remote work community. And I love, you shared that you started your remote journey as an intern in 2011. Can you tell us more like what you've seen in terms of trends shifting since you started over a decade ago and what you're seeing today in a post-COVID or a mid-COVID world?
Yes, so I would say that there are three phases how I'm looking at this. So that there was a phase between like 2011 and then 2017 where majority of the challenges were a lot around technology. Because yes, you had Skype, yes, you had you had email, etc. But in many cases it was pretty choppy, and it was hard to rely that it will always work. Then there is a period when we started to help companies go remote or like optimize their remote work operations, and that was mainly about the mindset. So majority of the market was like, no, remote, no, that doesn't work. So then up until March 2020, majority was like, no, 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 we're sticking to what we're doing. Offices are fine. Yeah, maybe you occasionally work from home because you have a courier coming or like someone is visiting, and then you're taking a day off. And then when COVID hit, what we saw is that all the arguments against remote work, for example, people won't be working, productivity will be down, like everything will just disappear. That was totally not the case. And all the opponents to remote work, they saw that it's actually working. But for most part, it was working because people were putting a lot of effort, like personally, and oftentimes working way more than they are supposed to, and like working with all these broken processes or like not existing processes in the culture that was not supporting this, with managers that didn't know how to do it, etc. And then in last year or so, our company started to realize that this is a long-term game, and there's no coming back. We see that there is more and more investment in helping managers understand and like learn how to lead distributed teams, to have the technology that is supporting this, but also the technology that is used. Because one thing is that we have a cool tool, but then if we're using this and if that becomes a habit, right, then companies realize that they need to put processes into what they're doing on a daily basis, started to build playbooks, handbooks, right? They even started to hire people that have fun titles like head of remote, who are responsible for this, right? So we see that right now we're in the beginning of, we're actually right now after 3 years, right now this is the moment when most companies realize, okay, no coming back, we need to invest, we need to change, and we also need to open up to be able to hire from anywhere. So there were early adopters that were doing this before COVID. Right now, there are more and more companies. They're open to hire talent from anywhere in the world. But then it's super important that these companies need to have the infrastructure in place, processes, training programs to be able to support working with workforce that is basically on another continent or another country, right? So there's a lot of stuff that still needs to be adjusted, changed, or like implemented. But I believe we're on a good path, especially because it goes far beyond just work. Remote work gives you the flexibility to positively impact your life, right? And I think this is one of the biggest shifts that is happening also around the remote work trends itself.
That's great. Thank you so much. So if people do have questions, we can have, please do keep them in the Q&A so we can have them in one place. When I think about remote work, that there's two ways we can think about it, from the employee side and a job seeker, and then the employer and the company perspective. So I think we have a lot of job seekers on here. We probably also have some entrepreneurs. I'll start with a couple questions from the job seeker side. So could you talk to us a little bit about the different types of remote work that you see, from gig economy to local remote roles to global remote roles, and what types of roles and opportunities are out there?
Sure. So group number one, freelancing, absolutely nothing new. but and you can use platforms like Upwork, like Fiverr. What I would strongly emphasize to look into here are productized services. So basically, you're offering a delivery of a specific service. It can be an SEO audit. It can be a creation of a logo in 4 different formats. It can be an article with 1,000 words on a specific topic. And this is the trend where we see where the freelance work is going, to define the product, have a specific price, and then what's the magic here is that then you can repeat it, and then you can add another product. So it helps both the company to, or like someone that is requesting this product, understand what they will get and how much they will pay, and also it helps you to become a specialist in different services that are productized, right? So this is one of the things that you can look into. Fiverr actually started this couple of years ago, then Upwork copy pasted, and then they are launching new verticals. So definitely look into this. Then we have roles that are remote, and this is the question, how remote they are. So you can be either working within the same country, you can work within the same or like similar time zones, right? Or it can be basically you work from anywhere for anyone, right? Then somewhere in between, these level below remote, there's hybrid. So this is the case where the employer is requesting you to visit the office, and this is now the question, how often, and if there are some mandates on specific dates, or there's some specific cadence of these meetings, etc. This is something that my prediction, but also other experts, is not the future. So like hybrid is something temporary, and it's like with the hybrid car, it's not as bad as the one with gas, but it's not as sustainable and climate friendly as an electric one. So companies will evolve, and offices will change as a place where we more socialize, maybe a bit collaborate, but not to do our deep work. So to summarize, freelancers, and here I would focus on looking at what kind of services you can offer and then productize it. Then remote, either within the country, state, similar time zones. You really need to look at this aspect, for example, when you're applying to jobs at We Work Remotely and other job boards, because in theory it's remote, but it's, for example, only if you're based in the US, right? And then there are companies like Doist, like Buffer, like Automatic, like GitLab that are basically hiring from anywhere, and they don't care, because one of the things that you need to learn when you want to work remotely for such companies is asynchronous work, right? So it doesn't matter where you are, you're still be able to deliver and communicate without this sync aspect.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. I know for a lot of job seekers, it can be very frustrating. You see that amazing remote job, and then you see the parentheses like based in the US, based in the UK, or this specific time zone. And so I encourage our Nexford learners and alumni and everyone here on the call is to really be thoughtful and careful when you're reading through those job descriptions, and using quality platforms and job boards, and we'll share a few, and Ivo, if you have others to indicate that, where you can actually filter for those true global remote opportunities.
One maybe important thing to mention when we were talking about getting a remote job is that because there are so many people interested in getting a remote job, actually what we saw that works best, and actually we have at the Institute an event. Oh, this is actually pretty cool, I forgot about it. Next week, I guess on Monday, we have a session on how to write a remote friendly CV. So I will find the link in a second and share it. But what's really a game changer is not to go through job boards and like just apply. It's not about quality, it's about quantity. And in this case, what works is, first of all, your personal brand, especially LinkedIn. But if you're a designer, like there are other platforms, Dribble, Behance, etc. Because one of the most important things to stand out is your personal brand. So that's kind of like a one thing to have as a takeaway from this session. The second one is that in many cases, it's easier to start building personal relationships and reach out to HR folks on LinkedIn rather than just go through the job board in like a standard process. But you cannot do it like in the way like, hey, this is me, this is my CV, hire me. You need to be more creative, right? And lastly, look into communities and be active in communities, because this is also how companies, when they are practically looking for talent, they're looking for people they're contributing that are doing more than just typical 9 to 5, and online communities, especially ones that are making an impact, positive impact on the world, would also help you stand out from others. So yeah, that was just a important add-on to mention here.
That's great. Thank you. I think so I just want to clarify, you said it's important to focus on quality, not quantity, or is
quality.
Okay.
Quality. Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes we hear people have a spray and pray mentality. So
No,
like, I'm
one
going
more.
to put out as many as
No.
possible.
No.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I think it just creates more frustration on both sides too.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
the hiring managers are like, I'm not getting the right people. And then people who are job seeking are like, I clicked easy apply. Why didn't I get that, great remote job?
No.
So thank you for underscoring that.
Absolutely. And I just shared the link to the event. So feel free to take a look at this. The title is How to Write a CV to Get a Remote Job. So
that's great.
Sounds like a good match.
That's a perfect match, and we will include that in the follow-up as well, so that those who have joined can, and it looks like maybe this is you need to sign in to access it, but that's okay. We'll figure that out.
Yep.
And find the right link.
Oh, this is the right
okay.
link. If someone is not a member, they just need to apply, and then once they are approved, they will. Yeah. So this is the right link. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great. So, you've worked, so we've talked a little bit now about the job seeker side, and thank you to everyone putting the questions in the chat. We'll have a few minutes at the end to cover. So I want to turn a little bit to the employer side, because it's super important. Yes, we all want a great remote job, and we want to be in a place where we're going to thrive and be supported. And so what do you see when you've worked with different companies, and you've worked with some really great ones? Where have you seen companies have success when they're instituting a remote work policy? Like, what characteristics of the company or aspects of the culture have you seen to be really important for a job seeker to look out for?
Yes. So first of all, the foundation of remote work is built around trust. So all of these companies that are emphasizing on this aspect, that's definitely a good sign. In general, when you're looking at culture, there is a big difference between companies that are claiming to have something as a part of their culture, and this is the majority of the market, and then the reality, right? So there's no matching between how awesome we are when it comes to our website and then the reality, right? So I do encourage you to check websites like Glassdoor, for example, where you have reviews about companies, because that will give you a real overview on what's really happening within the company. So trust, transparency. A very interesting case is a company called Buffer. And they are it's on their website. There is a spreadsheet with salaries for all employees, including the CEO. So that shows how far they go in terms of privacy, that they're even publishing their salaries. They have a special calculator for that. So for instance, if you're applying to work there and you're based out of Africa, then they're taking into consideration the location, the local cost of living, your experience, etc., etc. So they're trying to make it as equal as possible. And in general, the topic of global salaries could be a separate one for a separate webinar. But it will be so trust, transparency. Then I would look at the experience of leaders, and if the company is managed by people who really done this for many years, and succeeded, because it all comes from the leadership, how the operations are run on a day-to-day basis. Then another extremely important aspect, more on the operational side, is how async friendly they are. So like asynchronous work versus synchronous work, and this is again a huge topic. And if you joined the institute, I shared yesterday a presentation that I did this week in Stockholm, or async on async work. So, and we don't have time to go into this more in depth. And then last but not least, and this is also one of the traits that you should highlight as a remote job seeker, companies that know how to do remote, they're looking at your writing skills. Because this is one of the foundations, how you like understand that you're a good communicator, both like verbally, but more importantly, how you formulate your messages, how you format your messages, right? So if you're thinking right now, okay, what should I do to like what kind of skills I should get, like definitely improve your writing, improve your formatting, because a lot of people still struggle with this. So that would help you with any part of your job, even if it's not remote.
Absolutely. Such great tips, and the Q&A here is big. So let's see. I'm wondering if we might want to hop over to some of the questions in the Q&A. And it looks like, so folks who are trying to register for the upcoming CV seminar, you can use any email. You don't need to use your Nexford email. You can use any email that you have. So you do need to create an account though, if you have not already.
Yeah.
Yes, so let's see, what else do we have? I'm wondering, when you say that, like, so for improving writing, for example, you just said folks to do that. How have you seen people do that, and like at the same time building their personal brand? Are you talking about writing Medium articles, social media posts? Where would you advise people
Yes,
practice that?
Spot on. Ideally, look for synergies. So if we're looking at improving our personal brand and then improving our writing skills, writing daily, weekly, it can be LinkedIn, it can be Medium, Twitter. Just be consistent. Ask people for feedback. Collaborate with others on content. So it's also better for you to get different perspectives, but also to increase your reach. And look at this as an exercise that is an investment in yourself. So don't look at this as, oh, I need to get a paid gig to write X articles and stuff. This is like an investment in you. So for instance, if you're passionate about X, let's say it can be how we can stop the climate crisis, right? And you're going, okay, let's dive into this. Sign up to a couple of newsletters that are talking about it. Start reading this, then start extracting some insights and just start posting on different platforms, right? Tag other people, get into conversations under other posts, really invest time on a regular basis. Like this is the key to build up the habit. And one of the easiest ways to do it is that you're blocking time in your calendar. So for instance, Tuesdays only or between 11 and 11:30 a.m. I'm doing X, right? I know I'm reading something or I'm writing. That really helps because there is a very specific time. You have a very specific goal. You're just putting your phone away, turning off all the notifications, and you're just doing this, right? And last but not least, don't expect immediate results. This is rather a long game. But if you're if we're assuming that you will be working for at least 30, 40 years, an investment of like a couple of months into this would for sure pay off.
That's great. And I will share again your LinkedIn here so that folks are able to follow you, because one of the best, I've learned so much from starting to follow you on LinkedIn or connecting with you. And in the posts that you're sharing, you have created such a rich community of remote work advocates around you who are liking and commenting on your posts. And so for our Nexford learners and alumni and our broader community here, look at who's liking those posts, who's commenting on them, look at their profiles and connect. And that's how you can really start to build your own expertise and learn from other people. These are such great tips, Ivo. Thank you so much. And if people are still having questions, we've answered some that are in the Q&A. We have one here from someone who's asking, do you have suggestions or recommendations on how to bring the idea of remote work to a bigger company that prefers to operate in the office due to work nature that is sensitive? And have you experienced that?
Yes. So one of the most successful ways is to start an open conversation about this. And I know that really depends on the culture of the company. But in many cases, what we saw working with different clients is that because some people don't know if they can speak up, if the communication about certain changes can be more open and like transparent. Maybe two groups want the same, but they're just not communicating. So what I would do, I know this is a general advice because it's impossible to like know all the details, but start an open conversation, maybe by bringing in the benefits. If we go more remote, how both the company will benefit, how teams will benefit, and then how individuals will benefit. But focus on data, on metrics, on the stuff that is tangible, right? Because those are the ways how you can convince the business to go left or right. So that would be probably the best, to start the conversation with some numbers, and then just keep fighting.
Yeah, and I think it's great if people can open up those conversations with their employer, and then also at the same time, if you're hitting a wall, make sure you're investing and following the great advice that you gave to investing in yourself and in the time it takes to identify companies and places where your talents can be applied remotely and in remote opportunities. We have a question too. I wonder, someone says, how many remote jobs is one allowed to take at a time? Have you seen a record for how many different gigs somebody has?
This is a bit of a sensitive topic for some employers, because they've been cases, and there are still cases, where people are abusing remote work and they have a couple of full-time jobs. I mean, it's fine as long as you're really delivering all the fronts and you're really doing everything what the employer is expecting you to do. So I'm against cheating. And this is something that really contradicts the trust aspect, because it needs to go both ways, that we can trust our employer, but also the employer can trust us, because at the end of the day, it's about the outcome, not the time. Then speaking from like the gig perspective, like the project perspective, couple of projects at the same time, but like make sure that you're not overwhelmed. And because I'm speaking from my own experience, I had already 2 burnouts. And at the end of the day, think about your health. So do not take too much on your shoulders.
That's true. Ivo Japar, Thank you so much. We are surprisingly at time. 30 minutes went by in the blink of an
Woohoo.
eye. So thank you so much for making the time. I've got a lot of great links that you have shared that we will link in the follow-up. And I want to make sure everyone follows you on LinkedIn to continue to learn from you, and have a beautiful rest of your day. And we'll look forward to being in touch.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Thanks everyone that joined. Hope to see you somewhere in the virtual space or maybe one day in person. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who's joined. We will look forward to following up with you with a copy of the recording. Again, I'm Jennifer Bongora, Nexford University's Director of Career Innovation. Let's make the remote future of work a reality. Take care.
Ciao.